Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is Subaru Outback 2008, but not 86A as we usually get, but this one is AP60A. So slightly different. I don't have the replacement in the shop. But what are the issues with it? The only issue that was reported is long crank. And I didn't get a clear answer from the customer whether there are any random misfires. I would expect that this issue is accompanied by random misfires, or perhaps even a persistent misfire on one of the cylinders. Could be, but I don't have the confirmation. Nevertheless, this is the ECM which has IC608, and can IC608 cause long crank? Yes, it can. It can also cause the car to not start at all. So we can have long crank or no start from the IC608. And how do I know that, you ask? Well, from experience. I performed this initially before I even started the repair shop. I had that issue on my car, and initially it was thought that it's just a bad connection between the chip and the harness. So one of the solutions that was offered or suggested was to just route a wire from this pin over here. This one, this is cylinder 6. It goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you route the wire from here to, I think it's that one over there on the harness. I don't remember. Or just solder around it. And soldering around can actually resolve the problem for a little while. In the best case scenario that I've heard of, and actually even had the ECM on my bench, was around a year, I think. Year or 6 months, something like that. This is much longer than I usually say that it's going to help, maybe for a week, maybe 2. In some cases, it might help for longer. But what exactly is the issue? And now I'm going to tell you what I think is happening. This hasn't been confirmed, but based on my extensive experience with this board, I have a pretty good hypothesis of what exactly is causing that. So as you can see, this is a QFN chip, and this is one of very few QFN chips used on these boards, and it's the smallest QFN chip used on these boards. And it has been used in models 2006 to around 2010. And then they stopped using it, and before they started using this one, let me show you on maybe on this board. This was the chip they would use for injector drivers. Not this particular one, but this packaging, right? So when they switched to this chip, the issues started. So I assume they just stopped using the chip, thinking that the chip is faulty. But it's not the chip that is faulty, because the resoldering alone resolves the problem. I very rarely replace that chip. Initially I started replacing them, especially on the ones that would come back. But that was not a fault of the chip, it was fault of my soldering. So they stopped using this chip and went back to chips like these. And now what is the difference between them? Well, the solder that they use, they need to use lead-free solder. And they heat from the bottom, as far as I can, assume. The board goes into the oven, but the primary heat is from the bottom, because that ensures that the solder will make good connection with the board. But for the same reason, this chip is not going to get as hot as it's supposed to get, and it's not heavy enough to adhere nicely to the board. So let me replace the what do you call it, the alcohol, because it seems like it's got too much gunk in it. Now, as I perform this repair, as opposed to heating the whole board uniformly and heating from the bottom, as I expect the manufacturer does, I heat the chip and the board. Well, I use leaded solder, so that's difference number one. So I have lower requirements as far as the heat. But I heat the chip primarily, which means the chip is going to get hot, it's going to make good connection. And then, it's going to make good connection to the board. So that is my hypothesis as to what exactly is going on, why this problem appears, and why you don't need to replace the chip, you just need to replace the solder basically. Now, for the same reason, why the solder needs to be replaced, because if what I'm saying is correct and it's the only issue, then you would expect that you blow hot air on it, you press on it, or maybe even reflow it, make it dance a little, and put it back, and just press on it and basically not replace the solder. That also only helps for a little while. The problem comes back eventually. However, when you replace the solder, the problem goes away permanently. That has been tested many times. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 40 videos that I made on this, maybe less. So this is what we do. Now, as far as the no crank or no start or long crank, if you reuse the old solder and do that, like either blow hot air on the chip or just rework around it, you're not addressing the ground pad, right? And that's where I think is the major issue, the primary reason why it goes faulty. And that, for some reason, that causes long crank and can cause no start. How exactly? I have no idea, but we don't have the specs for this chip. We don't even know what this chip is. Well, obviously it's output stage, so obviously it's some either bipolar transistors, MOSFETs, what have you, because we know it controls the injectors. but just slight issues with this chip, and you can have problems that we would not even expect, right? Even if you know, normally it's often it's cylinder number 6, so this little pin over here, and that's constant misfire. So you would expect that if one of those pins is detached, then just one injector is not working, and why would that cause long cranks or no start? But it can. It most definitely can. How exactly? I'm not sure. It could, I don't know, it's probably a result of timing. Maybe it can't catch timing. I don't know. But what I do know is that this resolves the problem almost always. Alrighty, so we have the chip ready. So today we have day 9. I finished the oscilloscope. It's packed up. Everything went well. It works. So we'll see how it's gonna perform. And as far as yesterday, the day 8, well, there's still no jobs out there. Completely. But I do have a little tiny dose of optimism, because finally I managed to talk to the recruiter, the company that does recruiting. I didn't know they even exist anymore, because after over a week of circulating my resume and applying and stuff, not a single company, recruiting company, reached out. And this one actually didn't respond to my offer or my application or anything like that. It just, a person reached out to me on LinkedIn with the listing, and basically standard spiel, like maybe you'd be a good fit for that, just as it used to be back in the day. What they look for is a big commerce engineer. Big commerce is a platform, one of many platforms that you can find on the market. And what they're looking for is, obviously a software engineer, but like completely specialized in this particular platform. And I personally think that it's going to be hard to find someone like that, even if there are even engineers like that, and they're looking for a job, and they're available, and they're going to work for whatever you're offering, right? So in my view, that might be hard. So, I just, said that my selling point is, I've worked with many different e-commerce platforms, because, I'm a primarily PHP engineer. So obviously if you work in PHP, you're going to work with CRMs and shops, online stores, that kind of stuff. Usually, it's not, not always. It's not limited to that, but primarily, if you work in PHP, you definitely worked with a lot of CRMs and stuff, and e-commerce platforms. But I don't have the experience with this particular one, and I don't think I need the experience with this particular one. It's not like it's a completely different ballpark. It's the same thing that every other company has. It's just packaged differently and works differently, and you just gotta figure it out. You just gotta learn it. there's tons of documentation and stuff. So that's standard. That's what we do in software engineering. It's not like you learn stuff at school and you got your degree or whatever, and for the rest of your career you do just that, right? Obviously it's always working with new technologies and going outside of your comfort zone. There's even no such thing as comfort zone anymore. Because whatever you worked with 2 years ago, it's gonna be at least different or maybe completely obsolete, and you gotta start doing something else. Learn something else. That's how this business works. I don't expect, because they're looking for a contract, which I'm all about. I would love myself even 3-month contract. That would be great. And contract to hire. So at the end of the contract there might be a job offer. But even if there isn't, then that's fine. That'll at least give me 3 months of work, and meanwhile I'll just keep looking for something more stable. But that's not why I got a tiny injection of the optimism, because I really don't think that they're gonna go with me. They're probably gonna find someone who's at least had some experience with this particular platform, right? That's what I would expect. And I'm not gonna learn this platform before I have any commitment from their side, right? I'm not gonna invest time into that, because I don't have enough time to be investing in potential leads, right? I don't even know what kind of company that is and what kind of SDLC they use, and what is the business, right? Because maybe they're in crypto or something, and I don't work with crypto, so that would be a deal breaker for me. So for that reason, I'm not gonna be investing my time into learning some obscure platform, right? Just with the hope that maybe there's gonna be a job. I can do that with a lot of other stuff, like different technology and stuff, and that's what I'm doing right now actually. But not the e-commerce platform. How many companies actually use that one, we don't know. But the optimism comes rather from talking to the recruiter. So that's not the only customer they are working with. And the majority of my conversation with the recruiter was around the situation in the job market right now. How different it is than, not even because I say, how different it is versus 3 years ago when I was looking for a job. But that's even true even a year ago. It was way different. Just a year ago. So it has changed very recently. But the bottom line is that the recruiter said that it's starting to pick up again, slightly. It's nothing crazy, but it looks like it's starting to pick up again. So maybe in a month or two, it's gonna go back to, maybe not go back to what it was 2019, 2020, 2021 and 2, even 23. Maybe not that great, at least for us, the engineers, but it looks like it's starting to pick up. And it makes sense that with everything happening around the world, not only in the United States, but across the global economy, well, economy is global, right? But across the rest of the world, it makes sense that they just kind of paused on more strategic moves and are less ballsy when it comes to hiring, and more reserved when it comes to scaling, that kind of stuff. But eventually it will have to, all those companies that paused hiring now, they're gonna have to start hiring eventually. Primarily what I think is that, what I think and what I hear from people that know a lot more about all this than I do, is that there's significantly lower rotation in the space. Right? People are just not quitting jobs like they used to, looking for something better. They prefer to keep the job they have and just hold on to it, which makes sense. That's what I would have done if I had a opportunity. Right? I didn't want to quit. I mean, yeah, sure, I had my fair share of complaints and stuff, right? It wasn't all perfect, but not enough, not to the point where I would quit the job without having another job, and definitely it didn't go to the point where I was looking for a job, which I should have, definitely. But hindsight is 2020, and only hindsight. So that is one of the reasons, I'm sure. Political climate and all that is not helping. What's wrong with you? Come. And that might be the primary driving factor. But if the recruiter says that it's starting to pick up again, that is a lot to me. And at least now I have, because I sent him my resume, and he's local here to Atlanta, so we'll see. Maybe I'll have to start commuting to the office, which is not the end of the world. I can do it. I wish I didn't have to, but if I do have to, I'm not going to be complaining. I could probably do hybrid, no questions asked. 5 days in the office. It also depends how far the office is, and but then again, I'm not in the position to be picky. If there is an on-site job in office, if you want me and I like the job and the money makes sense, I'll take it. And maybe even if the money doesn't make much sense, it's better than nothing. I mean, it also depends, because right now I don't have a lot of jobs in the shop. Right, luckily, yesterday and today we have a customer device, but on most other days I just fix stuff that I have around the shop. I don't get paid for it. And sure, if I fix it, I might be able to sell it on eBay, that kind of stuff. So it's not a waste of time. but it's not like I'm getting paid for it immediately, and it's not like it's gonna help me pay the rent. Let's equalize over here. Let's solder nicely. Yeah, almost. There. Better than factory. All right. Oh, we'll see if it so happened that my shop just picked up pace enough that I would have 2, maybe 3 repairs a day. You know, that's maybe not a lot of money because my bench fee is pretty low. I charge $40 for bench fee. So if you have anything that you want an answer, whether it's repairable or you want someone to take a look at it, and other shops are refusing it because it's not viable or their bench fees are within the multiple hundreds of dollars, send it over to me. The worst, all the risk is pretty much just that $40 plus shipping, obviously, back, unless you don't want it after repair assessment. You don't want it back, and fine, I'll throw it away or just keep it for parts or what have you, depending on the device, obviously. But that would be, I don't know, that would be like a blessing in disguise, right? I'm getting laid off, but then the shop picks up. And I've seen the video. Actually, I haven't seen the video, but I've seen the thumbnail of the video where the guy says that getting laid off was great for his career because that took his career to the next level. There was a little bit of alcohol and it evaporated rapidly. Anyways, I didn't actually see the video, so I don't know what exactly he did and how is he successful, but the thumbnail and the title says basically that guy got laid off, so he got forced to better himself or start the business or something like that, and he sees that as a blessing in disguise. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all, but as my dad used to say, is it written in the stars for me? Personally, I'm not a believer of fate. I think we all create our fate. I am a believer of karma, though. solder around it, and we're done with this one. Alright, that's not too much optimism, but it's enough for me to just kind of carry me to the other day, because it's getting pretty scary out there. I mean, still, let's not exaggerate, because what I always say is always could have been worse, right? And whenever you talk to recruiters and they hear your accent or my accent, and obviously they're always gonna ask for whether I need sponsorship or anything like that. And the ones that I don't appreciate, because they ask that question because they should, obviously, do you need sponsorship? But then there's a follow-up. Okay, so you're like green card citizen or something, and that, in my view, you shouldn't be asking that question, because it's none of your concerns. As long as I'm working legally in the United States, it's it's kind of like discrimination. I have an accent, so what, I can't be a citizen? I will be eventually. I just have to get the papers done. But now I don't mind that, because I don't talk to recruiters that much anymore. And in fact, so far I got one, which is maybe not even too bad considering what the situation is on the market. Getting even to talk to the recruiter after a week, roughly, maybe 8 days, that is not too bad in my view. That's like a tiny little success. And I used to be, especially when because like pretty much before I started working for corporations, I always did, kind of hustling. I was a repairman. I had my own clients, so I didn't have anything stable. I didn't have a stable paycheck. So I would just run from project to project, right? Wherever people needed something, you just call Raf. And that was either, working on developing some software for the companies, or doing the repairs, or building a network, that kind of jobs, right? So I was kind of used to that, but back then it was just me, just Raf. Now it's Raf and the little Raf and Mrs. Raf. So it's not just my life that I worry about. It's the whole family relies on me to deliver. That's a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure, guys. Have no illusions. So it's a lot different now than than back then. So you might look at it as I should be used to that, or I have experience in that, I should thrive, but I don't. I do not thrive in this situation at all. I just do my best, staying busy. I don't know if you guys watch my other channel, but I also publish one video a day on the other channel. I'm working on the ticketing system that I'm gonna be using, and partially I'm using it right now if you've ever ordered anything from me through my ticketing system, which is Hesk. That's not mine. But if you ordered anything, you received a payment link, and that is my system. And now around that payment system, I'm building the ticketing system as well. And I didn't go outside of my comfort zone because I want to deliver it relatively quickly. And I do at least half an hour a day of, half an hour session at least. I used to do 1 hour sessions, but now I do, it kind of varies. Now it just kind of varies. Sometimes it's half an hour, sometimes it's an hour. But I do that as well. So I'm staying busy, for two reasons. Number one, nothing in life is given. You have to work for everything. But the second reason is that kind of keeps me from, it keeps me sane. I need to be busy. It's kind of like, if I don't have a job, I'll just create a job for myself. And, and not even that, I clean the house, I'll do the laundry, I'll, start learning some other platform, some other technology, that kind of stuff. Now I'm trying to wrap my head around the inertia. That is the pretty cool technology from Laravel that allows you basically to write the code as if you are a back-end engineer, but with a Vue or React framework around it. So it's a single page application, but you don't have to do you don't need two engineers, the front-end engineer and the back-end engineer. You just need a back-end engineer pretty much. And well, obviously you need to be able to do some stuff in Vue, but it's not very complex. And I have about a couple years experience in Vue. So that doesn't terrify me. But it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm kind of struggling with it. For that reason, because I have a project. It's a low budget project and relatively low effort, but for it to actually be low effort, I need to work smart. Because I could take it, I could take it to the point where it's just, I'm gonna work a few weeks and get $500 for it. That's not exactly money making business. So within that budget, I need to be able to build it in a few days, say a week tops, 5 days, right? That gives me $100 a day, which is depending on how many hours you put in a day. Let's say I'll put in 4 hours a day, 5 days. So that's what, like 20 hours, $500. I don't know. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not great for the salary of the software engineer. Sure, it might be laughable money to you, but I did tell the customer that, with even if you add, or if you add another zero to that, making it $5,000, then that's usually maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks of a consultant like me on the project. That's usually what I would charge. Well, usually, for consulting gigs and contracting work, around $60 to $70 an hour. That's average. That's still average, because the recruiter asked me, like, what's your expectations, financially, expectations and stuff, and I said I did have once I did have those expectations 3 years ago, but now I don't know if the market needs to self-adjust, and to be honest, we are making way too much money for the work that we do in many cases, and the competency we have in many cases. So I fully understand that now I'm not going to be able to get $150,000 a year. Maybe now I have to drop to 100, maybe 90. Well, I could, I would live with that. I'd prefer not, but that still sounds, I would accept that meaning, right? So I asked the guy, like, what are the, like, brackets nowadays? How many, how much do we make nowadays? Because I've seen the senior engineering jobs for like 90 to 120, or 90 to 110, or 80 to 100, even going down to 70s. That's, kind of half of what I made before. That's a big step down. And you have to remember that once you get a full-time job as an engineer, there's significantly less time, or there's significant amount of time that you have to invest in that company. Right? So that means I'm not going to be able to invest time into other things that also bring me a little bit of money, but not comparable, and it's not stable either. So, but that is slightly, that is a factor. But so I asked the guy what's the ranges, but looks like it didn't drop. 60 to 70 an hour for hourly wage, and 110, 100 to 130, which is fine. I could live with that. I wouldn't even complain. 130, yeah, that's fine. That's slightly less than I've been making, but not significantly less. But even back then, when getting a job was a lot easier, it was a process that would span across weeks, sometimes months. And the longest process I was involved in spanned across almost 2 months. The shortest one, a week, a little over a week, almost 2 weeks. So sometimes you get lucky, and but as they say, if you rely on luck, your luck is gonna run out eventually. Right? It's good to be lucky, definitely. Don't get me wrong, but that's not something that you should rely on. Appreciate it, sure, but don't rely on it. Alrighty, and with this optimistic note, we are done. So cranking should stop, or the long crank issue should be relieved now. If it isn't, again, let me know, and we will have to eliminate the ECM. But it's very unlikely that anything else would be causing that issue if the issue results from ECM. Alrighty, this is it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you tomorrow.